So this guy starts the conversation. His name, should I not say their name?
I would probably not say their name.
We'll call him
Joe.
We'll call him Joe. He goes, hey, how are you? I go, pretty good. How about you? Joe, not too bad. Just chilling. Are you seeing anyone? Me, I'd hope not if I'm on here. Joe, yeah, I guess you're right. So are you looking for a hookup or a relationship? And I go, relationship, because, And he goes, so can you do it? Me, being a smartass. Can I do what? If you want to be in a relationship with me, you got to be able to do it. Me. What do you mean by that, though? Like, am I willing to have sex with you, or am I physically capable of it? Joe, both. Me, why would I not be able to, though? Joe, I'm just wondering. I said, like, are you fucking standing up? I'm literally just like everyone else, and I'm not yelling at you or anything because I know society desexualizes disability a lot, but just so you know, people with disabilities are no less capable of being sexual than any other person. To which his response was, let's fuck.
Oh my God.
He said, yeah, probably not.
Hi, you're listening to The Obvious Question. I'm Maddie Lawson, the one in a wheelchair.
And I'm Becky Smith, the able-bodied one. And today, we're talking romantic relationships. Ooh.
Yeah, people, whenever I'm on these apps, they often assume that they verbalize their assumptions, that I am unable to be sexual and, have sex. Guys will hit on me with things like, oh my God, you're so hot for a girl in a wheelchair. Or I still think you're hot even though you're in a wheelchair. My hero. I woke up today thinking I was just ugly, but now that this boy on Tinder...
The validation.
Oh my God. Now I'm just so confident. I'm beaming. I don't know. It's really not all that different, but people often otherize that in a lot of ways. And,
and assume that you're completely non-sexual, like you said. Because you're a girl with a disability, a girl in a wheelchair, that part of your life just isn't a factor. That you are just a benign blob that doesn't have wants and desires.
Or they completely objectify me and say things like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do it with a girl in a chair. And that's so creepy. The chair chasers are psycho.
This is a term
They're
for people
real.
who fetishize
They're out there.
wheelchairs.
They're DMing me on Instagram on a daily.
Well, so today on this episode, we're going to talk love, sex, and dating from the perspective of someone with a disability. We're actually going to be talking with two very good friends of yours, Lexi and Tyler.
About yourself.
I'm Tyler. I exist.
Wow.
This is what we date. So me and Lexi's relationship kind of built on the fact that we both have this disease, but it's become more of a sister type relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We bond over, wheelchair stuff. Both our experiences are pretty different. She is kind of my little Wikipedia knowledge book that if I ever get nervous about boys or anything like that, I can just call her up and be like, how do I do this or what? And she's always just kind of there to guide me through stuff.
And how does Tyler fit into this picture?
Tyler, he's very funny. He's definitely the comedic relief whenever me and her have our dramatic breakdowns about stuff. I am very skeptical of boys in my friends' lives all the time. But with Tyler, I don't really feel like I need to be skeptical because, I don't know, I used to worry whenever they first started dating. I was like, oh my God, what if they break up and then she is living in Tennessee? What is she going to do?
Because they live together.
Yeah, they live together. So I was like, what is she going to do? What would that look like? But knowing him and knowing who he is, I know that he would never put her in a situation where she would just be screwed. He would always figure out how to take care of her, even if that meant they weren't together.
Right.
He wouldn't ever just leave her high and dry.
So Lexi has SMA. That's one of the forms of muscular dystrophy that you also have, spinal muscular atrophy. And then Tyler is able-bodied. And that just means that he doesn't have a disability. So in this episode, we're going to be talking with them. We're going to be learning a little bit about their relationship, their dating journey, their love life. You're probably going to hear some things that you want to know.
And probably some things you didn't.
True. Okay.
We met in 8th grade in choir. Our choir teacher shipped us really hardcore.
You met in choir?
Yeah.
I didn't know
We met in
that.
choir.
Oh my god.
He was not actually supposed to be in my class. He just chose to be in my class.
Yeah.
And they let it happen.
So you guys talked
Wait, why were you supposed to
2
It
hours.
was in a different hour.
But one of the things that Lexi and Tyler and you talked about that I thought was really interesting was they talked about how people perceive their relationship, how people often don't think of them as dating, which is why like Lexi talked about why she has like a promise ring, because otherwise people would just assume that Tyler's her caretaker or something. And she had this really great, you know, in quotes, but she had this story about how they went to a doctor's office and they had some issues.
One thing that really bothers me is when like random people that want to talk to her, they'll talk to me because I think she's like mentally
Doctors.
disabled.
Oh, I forgot about that. We
Doctors
went
are
to a
the same
doctor's
way.
appointment for the first time to get a new like general doctor. And the nurse and the doctor would ask a question and look at Tyler while asking it, but it was something he wouldn't know. It was about me. And I'd be like, no, or yes. You know, I would just be answering and he's just like, I don't know, ask her. I don't know, ask her every single time. It was just always directed at him. Like, people do that.
Like we even said stuff. It was like she's mentally fine. Like,
Yeah.
she's smart.
Yeah, it was like, my body is just trash.
You could
Like,
just ask her questions. That would be great.
and like just random people, like if they want to say something to me, they'll like be like, oh, can I like talk to him? And I'm like, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
No. Grounded.
I totally know what you mean by
Yeah.
that, because people do that
Yeah.
with my friends. They'll be like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty.
Yeah, like people do that to my
Like-
mom. My mom's just like, I mean, she's right there. She's not
Yeah,
deaf. Like,
like,
that's not a problem
The
she
wheelchair
has.
is not a hearing aid. I don't know if you know the difference.
Do you have this issue? Like if you're going on dates, those sorts of things, are you having issues with people recognizing that you're, oh my God, actually on a date and not like with your caretaker? I don't know.
People can be kind of ridiculous sometimes. I think a lot of times people see me and maybe they've never been around somebody who's in a wheelchair. Maybe they just don't know how to respond. And so they feel really uncomfortable in the situation. And then their response is typically like, I have to say something to her. And so I was actually on a date a couple months ago and I was just sitting at a table and this old woman comes up to me, was just like, oh my goodness, what a beautiful little girl. And she says this to the guy I was on a date with. And he was like sweet about it. He was like, yeah, she is. But I looked at this woman like she had just murdered my family. And she like walked away, but then came back over and was like, I guess little girl probably like wasn't the right thing to say there. And I was like, yeah, probably not. So then she like walked away. But like that kind of thing happens a lot. Actually, whenever we got to the place that we were at, there was a person sitting at the table and he saw that there was like no other tables available. So he was like, oh, let me move. Like, I want to give you guys my table. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, that's super nice. Which it was super nice. And like, that's really cool when people are like that and like do those kinds of things. But throughout the time that he was there, he like felt the need to like kept coming over to me and like touching my shoulder, being like, oh my gosh, like I'm so glad I met you, like have a great day, which was nice. But at the same time, I was just like, would he do this if I was able-bodied? It's nice to do kind things for strangers, but not when you're overstepping your bounds. If you really feel that uncomfortable, if you really look at me and like feel sorry for me the way that a lot of people do, maybe think about what I'm doing. Maybe I want to be on this date just to be on a date and like you're literally interrupting me. Think about that.
So we talked about the Tinder escapades you've had where people are over-sexualizing your disability. But then also, I mean, this sounds like people are almost under-sexualizing you. Do you think it would be hard for someone on a date with you to like view you as like a viable romantic sexual partner if you're being infantilized by all of the people around you in an environment?
I mean, I think that's definitely an anxiety that I've had about dating. I sometimes struggle with, when someone helps you to get dressed and do those things. Like, I mean, I always make jokes whenever people are like showering me or like washing my body or doing anything. I'm like, oh, getting handsy, and like I'll just like make sexual jokes, but it's always such a joke. I do worry. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what if someone doesn't think that's hot? It really doesn't bother people as much as I like think it does. Anyone I've ever like brought that kind of thing up to has told me you're hot. Like I don't know why you feel like it would be any different. And so I don't know. I think it's all about like how you perceive yourself, and like if you constantly like think of yourself as hot, other people will feel that vibe and like see the same thing.
One of the other things that really stuck out to me was about how difficult it can be when you've been in a relationship for a while. Okay, so Lexi and Tyler are your age. They're like early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
They've been dating since 8th grade. So, I mean, they're probably looking at like, 5 years of relationship?
Yeah.
But so they talked about fighting. It was something that I had never thought about.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and like listen to this little bit of the conversation about their fighting.
I didn't mention about like dating and disability that you think like the world needs to know.
Pretty normal. I mean, it does add a little bit of stress just because I know that if we get into a fight, I usually am like, it's the same concept, but if I get in a fight with my mom, it's like, you have to make up or you have to just figure out how to deal with yourself. If I fall over on the floor like we're in a fight, he will leave me there. He will just leave me there and like he'll be like,
now you make
figure
me
it out.
sound like I'm that guy.
You won't leave me there
Okay.
forever. I was getting there. He'll come get me eventually, but it's like after I throw a fit and get done throwing the fit, and then I'm fine again. And then he's like, "You done?"
I feel like that would be a hard dynamic with a relationship because, like, moms, like, I fight with my mom all the time, and I always have to be sorry first.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's not always that I have to be sorry first with
I'm
him.
not saying that.
I know,
yeah.
with moms it is. You have to
With
be sorry
moms,
first.
yes.
But, like, with him, it's usually, like, a mutual, like, I'm sick of fighting. But, like, that is a problem, though. Yeah. Occasionally, you will fight, and then you'll realize, wait, I still need him, or I still need her.
We kind of
or
have to work
whoever.
it out because it's not like she can just like storm off.
Yeah, I can't just
Yeah.
leave.
She's not
I
going
can't just be like,
anywhere without
bye.
me.
I'm gonna go
So-
home now. No, I'm just stuck. Like,
You're like, you're
I
going
can't
to drive
even,
me home.
I can't even like just to another room storm off. It just looks silly. It looks silly, and it makes me start laughing, and then the fight is over because I'm just laughing.
Yeah,
So-
I feel that way too when I get mad at people. I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel comical.
Yeah,
right
like
now.
just
Like,
me,
this is funny.
Me being mad is just funny, and
Just
it's
rolling away faster.
just like
Well, I think that's kind of why we're so like passive with people
Yeah.
because we're like, no one's going to take us seriously.
yeah, it's like
anyway.
it's impossible to get like actually mad because everyone's just like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, literally. I hate that. I literally, when people say I'm cute, I'm like, don't ever talk to me again.
But then you
Like,
gotta emotionally hurt them.
That's my only go-to in a fight, is to storm out of a room and slam the door. I can't imagine how much more complicated that would make the dynamic.
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, for her to feel valid in being angry sometimes, which it's really difficult, like from a friend's point of view, to watch someone who's being wronged have to convince themselves that they're being wronged because they have to depend on the person who they're being wronged by to like help them. And I'm not saying like Tyler's a bad guy or anything because like literally every couple ever gets in fights. But yeah, it's just like a difficult thing with being taken seriously in a fight, and I think that's kind of how close they are to you depending on how seriously they do take your emotions. Are they going to look at you and be like, oh, like that's cute, or are they going to like fight with you? That's definitely for me a sign of a close friend, is if we can actually fight and like it be not something that's cute but like something that's serious and valued. Are they listening to what I'm saying, or are they just observing?
I'm wondering if that even shows the quality of the relationship, if you can still be fighting and like still be capable of taking care of your partner. Because I mean, like I said, I've not been privy to any fights between Lexi and Tyler, but even just the short period of time I spent with him, even if they were fighting, Tyler isn't the type of guy who would like leave Lexi laying on a floor to roll away in
and
anger.
It's just, I think it's especially hard just because like a lot of times whenever people do take care of you, especially when there's more of an authoritative role in those relationships, I don't know, kind of like with moms, like we were talking about, it can be difficult sometimes to feel like you're not being irrational because whenever someone helps you, you know, they at the end of the day can always leave with that, well, I helped them, so like it's fine. Whenever like they could still have wronged you and you still need that apology, but they feel like because I helped you do this,
That is the apology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's finding people that recognize that that's not enough and that's just what you have to do to be in our life in any way, shape, or form.
One of the other things that, Maddie, we have spent so much time talking about was kind of the inspiration for this episode, and that Lexi and you, and less so Tyler maybe, spent a lot of time talking about was this idea of infantilizing and desexualizing people with disabilities. I mean, I know when we were even talking about the podcast originally, you brought up this idea of don't say I'm pretty for a girl with a disability or a girl in a wheelchair. Like, literally just call me pretty. See me as the human being who has desires and wants and all of those sorts of things. And so Lexi and Tyler talked a little bit about when they were in 8th grade and their 8th grade version of the, like, can you have sex talk. So we're going to listen to that for a second.
My friends were weird about it.
Yeah.
They were totally weird about
Are
it.
they weird about it?
Did you get any like weird questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta like elaborate.
Back then, it was really weird. They're like, can she, like, kiss? And like just really stupid questions that
So,
you expect
like,
8th grade
So just like the
boys to
8th
ask.
grade. So disabled people can have sex? Like that's what that
yes.
is. That was
That
just
was-
the 8th grade version
yeah.
of that.
And me being in 8th grade, I was like,
Maybe we haven't
don't-
tried that yet.
I don't know. I'm a child.
I'm
Yeah.
like 5.
Just like we don't know what we're doing. We just hold hands.
I don't know. Let me Wikipedia. I'll let you know.
Why do you think people have a tendency to kind of like desexualize disability after dating someone with a disability? Like, why do you think people just have that view from an outside perspective?
I don't know.
He just like doesn't think that way.
No.
So like
Yeah.
that's probably
Well, yeah,
why
you just-
our relationship works is because he just doesn't think that way.
I
I think
don't
that's what you have
understand
to
it.
find is you just have to find someone that's like that's random. Why do
Yeah.
you think that way?
Like, she's just literally a person sitting down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly. Like,
That's kind of a noodle.
yeah, she's a noodle.
Yeah.
What's something that you wish people understood about disability when it comes to dating? Either of you can answer this.
I don't know, man. A lot of things.
A lot of things.
Everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. That it just doesn't have to be about the disability.
True.
It just doesn't have to be about it. Like, literally. That's, like, the main thing. Is that, like, my disability on the scale of our problems in our relationship or anything in our relationship is, like, the lowest rank. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
So, it's just, like, I come with a seat. That's about all that comes with it.
And good parking.
And good parking.
Like,
Wheelchair perks. There's many of those.
That's it. They still sometimes think that we're just
Yeah.
friends or that he is just my caregiver or something. Like, that's the thing that happens.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
People think I'm her caregiver, like,
Yeah.
in public a lot.
Like, they're just my nurse. And I'm like, no, that's not. No, that's my boyfriend. We date.
I'd be a cool nurse, though.
You would be a cool nurse. We've talked about this recently.
Yeah.
That'd
I'd
be
hire
pretty
you.
lit.
I mean, I think I got dibs.
Tyler told a story about his dad asking about like their sex life.
What's funny is how people just think that those kinds of things should be public, like information. Like when people ask about that, they're like, I'm just curious. Like,
Well, I mean, like throwing back to your Tinder conversation. The guy who's just
Yeah.
like, can you even have sex?
like, can you? Like, are you okay? Like,
I mean, that's not necessarily to say that there's not like more logistics.
oh yeah.
But there's logistics for anybody.
Yeah. You just have to like be confident and comfortable with yourself and comfortable enough to mess up.
Literally any sexual relationship.
Literally, yeah. And it's all like the more you're like able to laugh with that person and the more you're able to, you know, laugh at yourself and comfortable with laughing at yourself and like making fun of yourself along the way. Like, I think the better that it'll be for anyone.
I've thought about what your next project should be in life, Maddie.
What?
So you've seen Cosmos starting coming out with like sex position guides for LGBT couples, those sorts of things. You should make an SMA Kama Sutra.
I actually do want to submit a how to sex from a wheelchair like article just because I think they would totally be into it. Everyone wants to know apparently. So, I mean, give them what they want.
And I mean, as Tyler put it, the only thing you really need to realize about sex with a disability is how to use pillows a little more creatively.
Just use a pillow. You do the math. So, such a big idea. Like, it's such a strong idea that, like, oh, wheelchair means you can't do anything. Like, people look at a disability and they see all the things bad about it, but they don't see, like, oh, you can still have a life with a wheelchair. You're not bound to a wheelchair, you know? Like, why would those desires and why would those abilities just not be there? Like, I'm really confused, like, why that would deter you from being able to do that. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's the most inspiration porn I'll give anyone on that.
That is an ongoing joke, though, that we just have a sex dungeon somewhere. It's not true, but he had like this weird like half-ass closet in his room, like at his house. But it had like this weird closet, and every time his friends come over, we're like, yeah, that's where the sex dungeon is.
Oh my gosh.
It's really just where the Christmas decorations are.
Special thanks to the Whole Obvious Question team. This episode was assembled by producers Abby Ivory Ganya and myself, reporter Taylor Kitterup, editor Ryan Famuliner, online guru Nathan Lawrence, and our executive producer is the one and only Erin Hay. This has been The Obvious Question. I'm Becky Smith.
And I'm Maddie Lawson.
Thanks for listening.